Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
Todd, Hazelwood, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me back on the show again.
It's an absolute pleasure. Your career seems to... I don't know whether we just tag along behind or whether we interview you, then you go to another level and we get you back on and push you up to another level. But ironically, the connection to you and I started all the way back. We both had a little bit to do with Bordertown in South Australia. You lived there for a while. My radio career started there, and your career sort of started there too in a go-kart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it all started in dirt karting. Did a lot of racing in the southeast, down at Bordertown, Lucendale, and all the other tracks around it, like Oxford and Renmark as well. So did a lot of racing back there in my junior career, and yeah, it was fond memories looking back on it all. What seems like a long time ago now, which is scary.
And ironically, where are you now, Todd?
I'm actually back at a go-kart track, believe it or not. So I raced 4 weeks in a row. I thought I might as well make it 5, and I'm actually cheering on my girlfriend who's racing up in Bundaberg this weekend. So drove down from Townsville, and she's ripping around at the moment doing some practice laps, and I'm being a supportive boyfriend, standing well away from the racetrack so I can hear you guys.
Yeah, no, look, Todd, I'm just trying to put things in perspective because I don't know a lot about the normal development of a racing car driver, but I know the very best ones seem to be in their early to mid-30s. We first spoke to you as an 18-year-old. You're now just 13 days short of your 25th birthday. Is that normal development, or do you think you might be just developing a tad quicker than normal at such a young age?
Yeah, look, I think, for me, growing up as a kid, I always threw myself in the deep end trying to race against the best competition. That always meant racing against guys that were older than me, and that started back when I was 8, when I was racing 14-year-olds, and then I progressed we always tried to ensure that we're always the youngest in the field to try and, I suppose, use that from a marketing point of view and always try and stand out from the rest, and that certainly helped me in my younger years at, progressing through Formula 4 and Formula 3, trying to create opportunities, having every sort of, I suppose, title under my belt to try and, stand out from the rest, and, it certainly helped us progress really quick, and when I got into Supercars, it was a very fast progression. So, it's all, I think it's just all about trying to learn as much as you can in the shortest space of time, and, it's helped me get where I am today, I suppose.
And a big career change to go from Mark Stone Racing to Brad Jones Racing. Just give us an idea of some of the differences in those two teams.
Yeah, it's a big change for me. I've been at Matt Stone Racing for 6 years. So it was a big culture shock, moving down from Queensland, where I've been based there for 5 years, and moved down to Melbourne to be part of the team at BJR. So Matt Stone Racing were very new to the Supercars Championship. I actually helped put that program together, and we started that at the end of 2017, moving to 2018. So very limited experience in the main game, single car team, then moving to BJR, obviously very established team. Both Brad and Kim, the owners of the team, they run a 4-car operation, very professional, had a lot of success, and I'm working now with a crew of around 55 to 60 people full-time at the workshop. So it's a huge program that goes on behind the scenes, and it's helping us get some good results at the moment, which has been really exciting.
So, Todd, it's Neil. Just a question from my perspective. My son, who is exactly the same age, well, not exactly, the same birthday, but he's also in the 25-26 age group, and he started at Auskick. And when he was 4, I bought him a football jumper, and I sent him off to a football over. Well, I didn't send him off. I went along with him, and he kicked the footy around. I would have thought the jump into, the start off that you had in karts and other mechanical things, it must be a huge investment. And the other thing, when you're 8, as you said, to actually be able to do the sorts of things you need to do to propel a vehicle, how does one get involved in that? Do you start in a billy cart going down a big hill? I mean, how do you get involved?
Yeah, exactly. No, for me, I suppose I grew up in a family that was very much motorsport orientated. My dad used to do desert racing as a kid in the Mallee region when he was growing up, and he always obviously had the bug for anything that went fast, but he broke enough bones in his body to realise that 4 wheels was a lot safer than his son than 2. So, for me, I was a rev head growing up as a kid. Whether it would be playing with Hot Wheels, like you said, or getting into trouble on the push bike or downhill billy cart. Dad and I built something together, and I just lived and breathed racing or cars. And I didn't watch cartoons. I used to watch
cars,
replays of cars and things like that. So I was, I suppose, a little bit different growing up, but I think that's helped made who I am, and I was always pretty, I don't know, one-eyed on being successful. I kind of hated team sports like football and cricket because there was always so many other people kind of controlling the outcome of a game or a result, and I hated losing. I was a pretty sore loser as a kid, and I think going into go-karts, I cried on my first race meeting because I lost. I think that kind of shows that from a young age it wasn't about going out there having fun. For me, it was always serious, and that pressure kind of come from myself, not from mum and dad. They were always the ones saying, "Todd, you need to just enjoy it," sort of thing. So, yeah, for me, when I got involved when I was 7 years old, it was all I ever wanted to do. I was playing football at the time. I quickly gave that up because I wasn't really interested, and it was all focused on to get to car racing and the dream of becoming a supercar driver. And I'm pretty lucky now to say that I'm essentially living my dream and achieved more than what I probably ever expected.
Todd, you mentioned mum and dad, and it'd be fair to suggest that in a sport like this, you couldn't possibly have done it through those formative years without incredible support from them. I suppose it helps that your father had a bit of it in his blood, but they must have made some sacrifices to their life to help you reach your dream.
Oh, they sacrificed everything. Yeah, it's been an incredible commitment from mum and dad, and my sister Lauren too. We used to travel around the country week after week in the car, sleeping out of a tent. And then at times where dad would be at work and mum would be driving me around the country, and mum would be the pit crew, Lauren would be doing the timing and the scoring and everything like that. So it was always a huge family commitment from everyone, just for me. And that's probably the hardest thing about motorsport. It's such a selfish industry. You've got to rely on so many people just to even be close to having a go. That's even before you've even tasted success. So it's very tolling on the family. We had to mortgage the house. We had to do so many things to even get close to having a start. And my parents don't have a family business or anything they could rely on. Dad's just works in the railways as a shift manager, and mum was working in a bakery. And it's not like we had squillions of dollars to throw at it. So it's been a huge sacrifice for so many people involved. And then extending outside of that, whether it be through sponsors or supporters and people that buy merchandise, people that supported us at the fundraiser barbecues, all those sort of things has helped us get where we are today.
Something quite ironic, isn't it, that mum and dad had to drive you around? There's something quite weird about the fact that, for, 10 years you weren't able to drive yourself around, despite the fact that you were driving yourself around.
Exactly. It was pretty hard, because doing crazy hours at one point where you'd leave the racetrack at, say, 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you'd drive all night from Melbourne to Adelaide, and then dad would be driving to work at 5 in the morning, and mum would be dropping us off to school and the next day. So it was always a big commitment, and some of the fondest memories looking back, and kind of wonder how the hell we actually did it all. But I suppose that's what makes the journey so much more special.
Todd, you mentioned the team aspect that you didn't really like because you like to be in control of the situation, but from previous conversations I imagine that you are so respectful of the support crew, which is your team now, and all the way down to the young fella who sweeps the floor in the workshop at the end of the day. You can tell by the way people jump around in the pits at the end of the big races that we see on telly that they're all riding with you, and you're carrying all their hopes and dreams and ambitions as well. Is that an extra pressure that you enjoy?
Oh, it's a huge part of it, and the mentality from when I was a kid to now has certainly changed over the years, and people forget that there's so much, I suppose, spotlight on the individual and what we do as Supercars Championship, but the reality is it certainly would not be possible without a huge commitment from the crew, whether it be the engineering group, the mechanics that are working tirelessly day and night trying to keep the car on the ground and trying to make sure it's maintained to the perfect level that it needs to be, and trying to ensure we can maximise our performance. And there's so many variables on a race car, as you can probably appreciate. It's a lot of work. So there's continuous development going behind the scenes. This industry just doesn't stop. So it's a very savage industry. You got to be on your toes every step of the way, and any moment that you miss is a missed opportunity. So the harder you work, the more reward you get, and that comes down to the team around you that can provide that sort of opportunity and put in the work.
It may surprise you to know I don't know a lot about motor racing. I don't know whether you picked that up or not. But if I was to draw a comparison with cricket, as a batsman, an elite batsman, you're an elite driver, an elite batsman will say, I don't like that bat, I like that bat instead because it's got a slightly different feel. So in a situation where you jump out of one car into a different car, you said there are 4 cars in the team, is it that noticeable, or are they all pretty much tuned to be exactly the same, or is there just a little bit of a quirk in a different vehicle?
Yeah, from a team point of view, all the cars are set up very similar. The equipment is essentially the same. So same motor, the chassis is all controlled up and down pit lane. There's a few variables to our front, essentially our front hub assembly is something that the teams have freedom in how they design and engineer it, and same with the front roll bar. So there's a bit of genius engineering going on in that front end of the car, of the race car, and that's essentially trying to tune how the driver likes it and what they want from a technique point of view. And even my teammate Nick Percat, we've been very close on pace all year, but the way we drive the car is still very different, and we actually set up the cars differently as well to suit our strengths and weaknesses. So there's been multiple times where I've tried to implement Nick's setup, and it just simply hasn't worked. Then we revert back to what I like, and straight away gets the speed out of it. So you got to always try and back yourself, and what we always say, you got to row your own boat with setup, and that's where it really, I suppose, the drivers are at the front of the field, so the guys at the back certainly know how to set the cars up better and get the most out of them, and it's all about that driver-engineer relationship, so you can work together, tune the car up over the course of the weekend, and ultimately try and come out on top.
And last weekend, definitely the highlight of your career. I know you had a top 10 finish a couple of times last season, but to win a pole position for a race, which was really out of the blue, you'd probably jumped a long way ahead of many people's expectations, but I guess internally your own expectations are always high. Were you a little bit surprised, shocked? How was the feeling when you did win that pole position?
Well, it was a pretty special moment, yeah. There was a lot of emotion coming through the helmet. I nearly lost my voice on the in-lap. I was cheering that hard because I couldn't believe it. So you can imagine the elation was pretty unreal. But yeah, it's something that we've been working close towards. We've kind of qualified close to the front. We've been around 4th or 5th or 6th a few times, and Saturday at Townsville kind of shaped up. We were 5th in qualifying in the shootout, but we were less than a tenth of a second off pole position. We thought, well, geez, we're just on the back end of being on the front row of the grid here, and if we can just tune it up for Sunday, we'll be pretty close. And yeah, we and then the second session on Sunday, yeah, we went out and put a big lap together. It was fully committed. There was nothing left on the table, and we stole pole position by 0.022 of a second. So it was a very close margin. But a pole was a pole, and yeah, it was a very awesome moment, and yeah, a moment I'll never forget. That's for sure. It's nothing like your first one.
Do the big guns give you a bit of extra respect in the pits now? A bit of a nudge, thumbs up, wink, good on you, buddy? Or do they all hate you now? It's funny. Everyone changes their perspective of you pretty quickly, and yeah, I think this year I've started to prove that I'm a serious contender for racing inside that top 10 now. And I think if we didn't have we've had a few mechanical gremlins over the season, but if we didn't have that, we'd be quite contending quite strongly in the championship, I feel. So yeah, I think people are starting to take notice, which is exciting, and now we just got to back it up. You don't want it to be a one-hit wonder. You want to back it up, and we kind of showed that on Sunday. We qualified pole, but it wasn't a fluke. We actually controlled the majority of the race. We led for probably 90 or probably 80% of the race until the late safety car, which kind of deterred us with our strategy that we elected to run. So when you have safety cars late in the race, they're the sort of things that you just can't control. So that hurt us, but other than that, I felt like we probably could have potentially had a win or comfortably finished on the podium, which would have been amazing. I won't be able to get through the interview without giving a shout out to your number one fan back in South Australia, but seriously, the support that you've had from not only the family, but your supporters and donors, sponsors over the years, they're obviously all important to your journey as well.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, big shout out to Adam Ray from down in Keith for all his amazing support, and his mother Sharon too, who is they've been supporting my journey for a long time now. So that's greatly appreciated. And yeah, as you said, there's so many people that support and invest in what we do, and yeah, can't thank all those people enough because it simply wouldn't happen without it.
Bathurst, is it going to happen? Is there any danger that it might be called off, or you think it's full steam ahead?
Yeah, obviously there's been a lot of speculation of what's going to be happening in this year's championship, and it's been touch and go over the last few months, but we're very, very excited now to announce that Bathurst actually got locked in just a couple of weeks ago. So we'll be doing 2 races at the Ben Motorsport Park at Tailem Bend starting from next weekend. So we're actually having a double header there, and then we have a few weeks break, and then we finish off the Supercars Championship with the finale at the Bathurst 1000. So it's going to be a huge end to the year. Obviously Bathurst, it's our grand final. It's the biggest race of the year, and looking forward to getting back to the mountain and seeing what we can do.
Yeah, well, there was a day when it was a Sunday afternoon, Brock v Moffat and an esky of beer. I reckon I might revisit that this year and cheer you on the way around. All the best, mate. Really appreciate your time with us, and congratulations on your career. It's going gangbusters.
Thank you very much, guys. It's always a pleasure to chat with you both, and look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, mate. All the very best.
There he is, Todd Hazelwood, supercar driver, and all-round good bloke by the sound of things.
He is a ripper, and brought up very well, brought up very hard. Never got ahead of himself. He's certainly clearly determined and aggressive and angry, all the things you need to be in that space, but extremely humble, and just the makings of a champ. I hope one day we'll get to see him with a big champagne bottle spurting it over someone. I don't know why they do that, but apparently it's the ultimate. I don't quite get it.